In a world where every purchase matters, discover Packed with Purpose, where gifting meets social impact. Imagine sending a gift that not only delights the recipient, but also changes lives. That's the magic of Packed with Purpose. They curate extraordinary gift boxes filled with products from purpose-driven companies across the United States. Each item in their gift boxes tells a unique story. Gourmet treats supporting job creation from the unemployed, eco-friendly office supplies promoting sustainability, artisanal crafts empowering underserved communities, and wellness products funding health initiatives. Whether it's for corporate gifting, client appreciation, or personal celebrations, Packed with Purpose offers a meaningful alternative to traditional gifts. Their expert team ensures that each box is tailored to your needs and your budget. Ready to make your gifts truly impactful? For our listeners today, we have a special offer. Using promo code DARK10, all lowercase, when you place your order, you will get $10 off your first purchase with Packed with Purpose. Visit packedwithpurpose.com today and start gifting with intention. Remember, use code DARK10 for your 10% off on your first order. Packed with Purpose, because every gift should make a difference.
Is dark and twisted, but somehow we find the light. We dive into the darkness, from paranormal to true crime.
Welcome to Dark Crossroads Podcast, hosted by Roxanne Fletcher. This is your stop for all things true crime and paranormal. From the infamous story of the New Bedford Highway Killer to the chilling tale of the Black-Eyed Children, Dark Crossroads Podcast is a truly deep dive into the stories that frighten and fascinate you. All links to the show will be provided in this episode's description. And don't forget to let us know what you think of today's episode.
Dark Crossroads.
Hey guys, today we're going to be going back in time to 1968, a year of seismic shifts in American culture, from the devastating assassinations of Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy to the height of the Vietnam War protests. But away from the national headlines in the small city of Holyoke, Massachusetts, a tragedy was about to unfold that would haunt the community for decades to come. October 5th, of 1968. As the sun set on a crisp autumn Saturday, 16-year-old Christine Hurlburt was getting ready for a night out at Mountain Park, a local amusement park and dance hall. She kissed her parents goodbye, promising to be home by her curfew. But little did anyone know that this would be the last time the Hurlburt family would see their daughter alive. In this episode, we're going to be walking you through Christine's story, the events of that fateful night, the desperate search that followed, and the ongoing quest for justice that spans more than 5 decades. We'll transport you back to 1960s Holyoke, Massachusetts, examining every detail of this perplexing case. But this isn't just a story about a crime. It's a story about a vibrant young life cut way too short, a family that was forever changed, and a community's loss of innocence. It's a devastating reminder that behind every cold case file is a human story waiting to be told. As we delve into this case, I want you, our listeners, to imagine yourselves as part of this investigation. What details stand out to you? What questions would you have asked? Your fresh perspectives might just be the key to unlocking this decades-old mystery. No detail is too small, and it's never too late for the truth to come to light. Close your eyes for a moment and picture this. It's October in the year 1968 in Holyoke, Massachusetts. The leaves are turning brilliant shades of red and gold. There is a crisp chill in the air, and the city is buzzing with the energy of change. Holyoke, which is known as the Paper City, was a bustling industrial town with a population of about 52,000 people. Picture busy streets lined with brick buildings, paper mills churning out products, and teenagers hanging out at local diners, discussing the latest Beatles album or debating the merits of the ongoing Vietnam War. Holyoke in 1968 was a city in transition. The textile industry was declining, but there was still a strong sense of community. You had this mix of longtime residents and new immigrants, primarily from Puerto Rico. The city was grappling with economic challenges, but there was also this undercurrent of optimism. The younger generation was pushing for change, both locally and as part of the broader national movements. For those of you that are not familiar with Holyoke, Mountain Park was more than just an amusement park. It was the heart of entertainment in this region. Perched on Mount Tom, this beloved park had been drawing crowds since the late 1800s. Mountain Park was the place to be on the weekends. There were rides, but for the teenagers at the time, it was all about the ballroom. Every Saturday night, there'd be a dance, live bands, the latest hits. It was their own little piece of Woodstock. Everyone who was anyone would be there. It was innocent fun until it wasn't. The Mountain Park Ballroom is the key to our story. This grand venue hosted dances and concerts, drawing young people from all over the region. It was here on a Saturday night in October that the story begins. October 5th, 1968. The occasion was a dance at the Mountain Park Ballroom. As the sun set and the lights of Mountain Park flickered to life, hundreds of teenagers made their way to this ballroom, excited for a night of music and dancing. Among them was Christine, unaware that she was about to become the center of a mystery that would baffle investigators for decades to come. But before we delve into the events of that night, let's take a moment to get to know Christine. After all, she is more than just a case file. She was a vibrant young woman with dreams, fears, and a whole life ahead of her. Christine Ann Hurlburt was born on March 15th of 1952. She was a junior at Holyoke High School. She was known for her friendly demeanor and her passion for music. Her younger brother Michael described her as always humming or singing something. Christine's best friend, Susan, name changed for privacy purposes of course, shared this memory. Chris was the kind of friend that everybody wanted to have. She was always ready with a joke or a kind word. She had this dream of becoming a music teacher. Used to say she wanted to bring music to every kid in Holyoke. It's hard to think about all the things that she never got to do with her life. As we move forward in our story, I want you to keep Christine in mind, not as a victim, but as a 16-year-old girl full of life and potential. It is this Christine, the singer, the friend, the daughter, whose story we're here to tell. Now back to October 5th of 1968, a Saturday like any other in Holyoke, but one that would soon be etched into the city's memory. To be able to make it more digestible, I broke down what we know about Christine's movements on this day. In the morning, Christine helps her mother with household chores, discussing her plans for the evening dance. In the afternoon, she spends time with her friend, Susan, picking out an outfit for this dance. In the early evening, around 7 p.m., Christine leaves her home at 245 Franklin Street, telling her parents that she's going to Mountain Park dance. At 7:30 p.m. approximately, Christine arrives at Mountain Park Ballroom with a group of friends. At 9:45 p.m. that night, the last confirmed sighting of Christine was at the dance. 11 p.m. that night was Christine's curfew. She never returned home, and this is when her parents begin to worry. Now let's set the stage for that fateful night. The Mountain Park Ballroom is alive with energy. Over 800 people have gathered for this dance. Picture a sea of bell-bottoms, miniskirts, and the latest 60s fashions. The air is electric with the sound of laughter, chatter, and the latest hits blaring from the speakers. Among the crowd is Christine. She's wearing a blue blouse and a sweater, her favorite outfit. She's dancing with her friends, likely excited about the night ahead, completely unaware that these are her final hours. To give you a sense of the atmosphere that night, it was a typical Saturday night dance. The band was playing covers of the Beatles, The Doors. One person quoted that they remember Hello, I Love You was a big hit that night. Everybody was just having the greatest time. This person also stated they didn't know Christine personally, but they remember seeing her there. She was dancing, laughing with her friends. It was surreal to think about that now. But as the night wore on, something went wrong. At some point, Christine separated from her friends. It's unclear exactly when or why this happened, but her friend Susan recalls, "We were all dancing together and then, I don't know, maybe around 9:30 or so, I realized I couldn't see Chris anymore. I figured that she had gone to the bathroom or stepped outside for some air. We weren't too worried at first, but then she never came back." This is the point where things start to get murky. We don't know exactly what happened after Christine was last seen at this dance. Did she leave with somebody? Did she try to walk home? Was she taken against her will? These questions have plagued investigators for decades. What we do know is that by 11 p.m., Christine hadn't returned home, and her parents had begun to worry. And by the next day, on October 6th, her parents had reported her missing to the Holyoke Police Crime Prevention Bureau. And just like that, a missing persons case was started. One that would soon turn into something far more sinister. Now, I want you to put yourself in the shoes of the investigators now. What questions would you be asking? Who would you want to talk to? As we move into this next segment about the search for Christine, keep these questions in mind. Your fresh perspectives might just shed some new light on this decades-old case. As the news of Christine's disappearance spread, the Holyoke community sprang into action. This is a breakdown of the search efforts. On October 6th, the police began their investigation, interviewing Christine's friends and other attendees at the dance. On October 7th, the first organized search parties are formed, focusing on the areas around Mountain Park and the routes Christine might have taken home. On October 8th through 11th, the search expands. Flyers with Christine's description are distributed throughout Holyoke and neighboring towns. Local media begins covering the story. To give you a sense of the community's involvement, a retired police officer who was a rookie cop at the time of her disappearance stated, "I had never seen anything like this. The whole town just came together. We had volunteers from all walks of life. Teachers, factory workers, housewives, all were out searching. You could feel the tension in the air. Everybody was hoping that we would find Christine safe and sound." But as the days went by, that hope slowly started to fade. The search was extensive, covering not just the immediate area around Mountain Park, but also expanding into the surrounding woods and neighborhoods. People were out there from dawn till dusk, calling her name, looking for any sign of her. People stated that they remember thinking how vast the woods seemed, how easy it would be for somebody to hide something out there. It was a scary thought to many. They all wanted to find her, but deep down, they were also afraid of what they might find. As the days turned into a week, the community's worst fears were about to be realized. But before we get to that, let's take a moment to consider the investigation up to this point. The police had been working tirelessly, following every lead that they could. They'd interviewed dozens of people who were at the Mountain Park dance that night. They searched Christine's room, looking for any clues about where she might have gone or who she might have been with. One of the challenges they faced was the sheer number of potential witnesses. With over 800 people at this dance, piecing together a clear timeline of events was a daunting task. Also, as the days passed, memories became less reliable. One of the biggest hurdles in a case like this is time. Every hour that passes makes it harder to find physical evidence, harder for witnesses to remember crucial details. And in Christine's case, there was the added complication of the Mountain Park location. It was a popular spot with people coming and going all the time. Distinguishing between usual activity and something suspicious becomes incredibly challenging. As the search continued, tensions in Holyoke were rising. Parents were keeping a much closer eye on their children. The carefree atmosphere that had characterized Mountain Park was replaced by a sense of unease. The community was about to learn a harsh lesson about the fragility of safety and innocence. Little did anyone know the most heart-wrenching turn in this investigation was yet to come. On October 12th of 1968, exactly 1 week after Christine's disappearance, in a twist of fate that can only be described as heartbreaking, it wasn't the police or search parties who made the grim discovery. It was Christine's own family. Christine's father, Thomas, and her 15-year-old brother Michael had decided to conduct their own search. Perhaps driven by a father's intuition or complete desperation, they set out to an area off the Mountain Park access road. Try to imagine this scene: a father and son, fueled by a mix of hope and dread, pushing through the autumn foliage. Then, a flash of recognition: Christine's shoe, lying a few yards away from where they would find her body. The moment of discovery was later recounted by Michael in a statement to the police. This is an excerpt from that statement. "I saw the shoe first. I knew it was hers. I called out to my dad, and we started searching frantically. That's when we found her. She was lying there, partially covered by leaves. It didn't look real. It looked like a horrible dream that I could not wake up from. I remember my dad telling me not to look, but I couldn't turn away. That's my sister." The police and the medical examiner were immediately called to the scene. The grim details that emerged painted a horrifying picture of Christine's final moments. The medical examiner would later determine that Christine had died from multiple blows to the head and of strangulation. She was found with a sweater around her neck, her blue blouse covering the lower part of her body. This discovery turned a missing persons case into a homicide investigation, sending shockwaves through the community and leaving a family devastated. Based on the reports, it appears that Christine had been deceased for several days when she was found. The multiple blows to the head suggested a violent attack, possibly with a blunt object. The strangulation, this indicates a very personal, close contact form of violence. It's not an easy thing to talk about, but understanding these details is crucial for piecing together what happened. One detail that puzzled investigators was the location of where Christine was found. It was an area that had been searched earlier in the week. This raised a troubling question. Had Christine's body been moved after her death, or had the initial searches simply missed her? Another crucial piece of information came from a group of Mount Holyoke College students. They had been in the exact area where Christine was found just 4 days earlier, enjoying the fall foliage. They reported seeing nothing suspicious at the time. This timeline suggests that Christine's body was placed in this location sometime between October 8th and October 12th. This crucial detail would become a focal point of the investigation. The discovery of her body sent ripples of shock and fear through Holyoke. The community that had come together in hope during the search was now united in grief and in fear. A local reporter at the time stated that they have covered many stories in their career, but nothing quite like this. The mood in Holyoke changed overnight. There was this palpable sense of loss, of innocence that was shattered. People were scared and angry. They wanted answers, and they wanted them fast. There was vigils and demands for justice. It was a community in mourning, but also a community determined to find the truth. As the news of Christine's murder began to spread, the investigation entered a new, more intense phase. But before we delve into that, let's take a moment to remember Christine as she was in life, and not just as a victim. Her high school yearbook, which was published after her death, included this tribute from her classmate: Christine Hurlburt, 1952 to 1968. A melody that was cut short too soon. Your laughter and kindness will echo in our hearts forever. As we move into the next phase of our story, the investigation, I want you, our listeners, to keep Christine in mind. Remember that behind every cold case file is a human story, a life full of potential, tragically cut short. It's in honor of Christine and all victims like her that we continue to seek the truth, no matter how much time has passed. With the discovery of Christine's body, the investigation kicked into high gear. The Holyoke Police Department, assisted by the Massachusetts State Police, launched a full-scale homicide investigation. This is a breakdown of the initial investigation. The crime scene, where investigators meticulously combed the area where Christine was found, collecting any potential evidence. They were particularly interested in understanding why this location had been chosen. The timeline, where detectives worked to establish a detailed timeline of Christine's last known movements. This included re-interviewing everybody that had been at the Mountain Park dance. Potential suspects, where the investigation cast a wide net, looking into Christine's personal life, her friends, and even examining any recent parolees in the area with a history of violent crimes. And last, physical evidence. While details about physical evidence have been kept under wraps by investigators, we know that Christine's clothing and items found at the scene were sent for forensic analysis. To give us insight into how such an investigation would have been conducted in 1968, we gained some insight from a retired detective who had worked similar cases during this era. A quote from this detective is, "You've got to remember this was before DNA testing, before a lot of forensic techniques that is around today. They relied heavily on witness statements, on building timelines, on good, old-fashioned detective work. In a case like this, with so many potential witnesses from the dance, it would have been a massive undertaking to interview every single one of them, cross-reference statements, and then try to piece together what happened." One of the key challenges that investigators faced was the lack of obvious suspects. Christine was well-liked, with no known enemies. This led them to consider the possibility that her murder might have been a crime of opportunity rather than a targeted attack. The nature of the crime, the blunt force trauma and the strangulation, suggested a high level of personal violence. This often indicates that the perpetrator knew the victim. However, the seemingly random nature of Christine's disappearance from a crowded event could point to an opportunistic crime. It is this contradiction that makes this case so puzzling. As the investigation progressed, several theories emerged. The known assailant theory. This was a theory that Christine had left the dance willingly with somebody that she knew, and the encounter possibly turned violent. The stranger abduction theory. This suggested that Christine was forcibly taken by a stranger, possibly somebody who had been watching the comings and goings at Mountain Park. The mountain perpetrators theory. Some investigators believed that the crime might have involved more than one person, given the difficulty of subduing a victim and moving a body without being noticed. Each of these theories has its strengths and its weaknesses, and over the years, investigators have revisited them multiple times. One aspect of the case that has continued to baffle investigators is the location where her body was found. The location is puzzling for a couple of reasons. First, it's an area that had been searched earlier in the week, which suggests that the body was moved there later. Second, it is not an easy spot to access, especially if you're carrying a body. It implies that the perpetrator either knew the area quite well or took a significant risk. Either way, it's a crucial piece of the puzzle. As weeks quickly turned into months and months turned into years, the investigation continued, but solid leads were hard to come by. The case remained open, but active investigation gradually slowed, as it often does in cold cases. However, the story doesn't end there. In fact, Christine's case would see renewed interest decades later thanks to advancements in forensic technology and a new generation of investigators that were determined to solve this cold case. In 1998, 30 years after Christine's murder, the case was reopened as part of a cold case initiative. Detective Mark Sullivan, who led this renewed investigation, shared these insights. When we reopened the case, we had the advantage of new forensic techniques, particularly DNA analysis. We re-examined all the physical evidence that had been preserved. While I can't go into specifics due to the ongoing nature of the investigation, I can say that we were able to develop new leads that weren't possible in 1968. This renewed investigation also looked into potential connections with other unsolved cases in the area. One case that drew particular attention was the murder of 13-year-old Danny Croteau in neighboring Springfield in 1972. While there's no concrete evidence linking these cases, the proximity in both time and location has led some to wonder if there could be a possible connection. Could the same person be responsible for both crimes? These are the questions that have haunted investigators and the community for over 5 decades. As we move into our final segment, we'll look at where the case stands today and the lasting impact it has had on Holyoke and beyond. The impact of Christine's murder on Holyoke was profound, and it was long-lasting. A community that once felt safe was now looking over its shoulder. Parents held their children a little bit more closer. The carefree atmosphere of events like the Mountain Park dances were forever changed. Holyoke was never the same after Christine's murder. It was almost like a light went out. People were more cautious and definitely more suspicious. Mountain Park, which had been this place of joy and fun, it took on this darker tone. Parents were being much stricter about where children went and who they were with. It was like the whole city lost its innocence. For the Hurlburt family, the pain is unimaginable. They've lived for over 50 years without any answers, without justice for Christine. While the family has largely avoided public statements over the years, Christine's brother Michael shared this thought with the public. Not a day goes by that I don't think about Christine, about what happened to her, about all the life that she never got to live. Our family has never been the same. We want justice, of course we want justice, but more than that, we want answers, and we want to know why. Today, Christine's case still remains open. It is listed as the first case on the Unsolved Homicides section of the Hampton County District Attorney's website. Investigators still hope for that one crucial piece of information that could break this case wide open. The following is a snippet of an interview that District Attorney Elena Sanchez provided about the case. This case remains an active investigation. While it's been over 5 decades, we have not given up. Advances in forensic technology mean we're constantly re-examining evidence. We believe that someone out there knows something, and we urge them to come forward. It's never too late for justice. This statement brings us to you, our listeners. Somebody out there does know something. Maybe it's a detail that seemed unimportant at the time. Maybe it's a conversation that was overheard years ago. No piece of information is too small for this case. If you have any information about Christina's case, please contact the Hampton County District Attorney's Office. You can find their contact information on their website, which is unsolvedmassachusetts.com. Christine's case serves as a stark reminder of the long-lasting impact that unsolved crimes have on families and also on communities. It's a call for justice that has echoed through the decades, a mystery that still continues to haunt Holyoke. As we close this episode, we're left with many questions. Will justice ever truly be served for Christine? Will her family ever get the answers that they've sought for so long? Her case may be cold, but it is far from forgotten. Thank you for joining us on this journey into one of Massachusetts' most perplexing cold cases. Remember that it is truly never too late for the truth to come to light. Every mystery has a solution. We just haven't found this one yet. Alrighty, so it's that time, guys, to say goodbye. But before I do so, I just want to send a thank you to all of my listeners for your continued love and support and for sending in cases that you want covered and stories that you want read on the podcast. We truly accept all stories, including scary, paranormal, and funny. Any cases you want covered or stories that you want read on the podcast, just please send them in to darkcrossroadspodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for hanging out again today, and if you want any more information about the podcast or cases and stories that we cover, then head on over to the website at www.darkcrossroadspodcast.com. There you can find all of the information about the podcast, a link link to our merch, and also our blog covering all of the cases that we cover. You can also find us on all social media platforms. Don't forget to like, share, rate, review, subscribe wherever you're listening to us. You can subscribe to the podcast for bonus information. There is a link in all episodes in the notes that will send you to our subscription page, and with that you will get bonus content, discount on future merch, and a lot of extra goodies. Every single dollar that comes through donations or through our subscription goes straight into the podcast, helping fund research, and it really helps us out and keeps this podcast going. And with all of this said, please don't forget to be weird, stay different, and don't trust anyone. Are you a science enthusiast? Someone who loves to tinker? Or are you just a lifelong learner? Get ready to embark on a journey of discovery with the Curiosity Box. The Curiosity Box is not just a subscription service. It is your ticket to a world of wonder delivered right to your doorstep. Every quarter, they pack a box full of mind-blowing science experiments, brain-teasing puzzles, and exclusive collectibles that will ignite your imagination. Conduct real experiments that dazzle and educate. Assemble gadgets that challenge your problem-solving skills. Explore scientific concepts through hands-on activities, and collect unique items that celebrate the joy of discovery. Whether you are 8 years old or 80 years old, the Curiosity Box brings out the scientists and all of us. It is perfect for family bonding, classroom enrichment, or solo exploration. Each box is carefully curated by a team of scientists and educators to ensure hours of engaging educational fun. Ready to unleash your inner scientist? Subscribe now and you will get an out-of-this-world offer just for our listeners. Using promo code DARK when you sign up, you will receive a free Light Year bottle for your first box. Visit the Curiosity Box today and start your journey into the extraordinary. Remember to use code DARK to receive your free Light Year bottle. The Curiosity Box, where curiosity leads to discovery.